10 serial killers who have never been caught. There's something irresistibly macabre about serial killers that have fascinated humans since the early days of newspapers. Perhaps it's the psychological fascination offered by someone who could do something so far outside the bounds of social acceptance. Or it might be the fear readers get from wondering about the tiny chance the person working at their local grocery store may have the most chilling of secrets. Before we start the other video, remember to subscribe to our channel. Number 10. The Babysitter Killer. The Oakland County child killer, also known as the Babysitter Killer, is an unidentified serial killer who murdered at least 4 children in Oakland County, Michigan, between 1976 and 1977. The killer's macabre alias comes from the fact that he bathed each child before committing the crimes, which led FBI profilers to posit that the killer had some form of twisted parental instinct. The killer's choice to target children gripped parents throughout Michigan and spawned dozens of neighborhood watch initiatives. Number 9. The Highway of Tears Killer. While the modern-day serial killer may be thought of primarily as a U.S. phenomenon, Jack the Ripper notwithstanding, Canada has had its fair share of heinous murders, including more than a few that remain unsolved. Perhaps the most infamous is the Highway of Tears murders in British Columbia. The highway is a 450-mile, 724-kilometer stretch of Highway 16 between Prince George and Prince Rupert. It has the unfortunate designation of being the site of at least 18, and possibly as many as 40, murders or disappearances between 1969 and 2011, mostly of Indigenous women. Number 8. Bible John. Spurring Scotland's most extensive manhunt, the answer of who exactly is Bible John has shifted over the years. But the serial killer's identity has remained a mystery in the 50-something years since the murders of Patricia Docker in 1968 and Jemima McDonald and Helen Puttock in 1969, all in their late 20s to early 30s. All 3 victims were beaten and raped before their murders after meeting the killer at the same popular Glasgow nightclub, the Barrel End Ballroom. Number 7. The Alphabet Killer. The Alphabet murders occurred in the early 1970s in Rochester, New York. The killer's alias comes from his choice of victims. He only chose victims, all of whom were young girls, with first and last names beginning with the same letter. The Alphabet Killer's 3 victims were each raped and strangled, while there were several witnesses, including motorists who saw 10-year-old Carmen Colon half-naked on the side of the road attempting to escape from the killer. Police have never managed to close the case. Number 6. The West Mesa Bone Collector. With a nickname that seems as much made for a movie poster as a police investigation, the so-called West Mesa Bone Collector may be currently active in the town of Albuquerque, New Mexico, or anywhere else for that matter. The mysterious killer hit the spotlight in 2009, when police found 11 bodies buried in an area of Albuquerque called West Mesa. Following a tip that a woman had noticed a human femur bone partially uncovered in a former construction site, police excavated the area. They discovered the bodies of women who'd been reported missing in 2003 and 2005. Number 5. Servant Girl Annihilator. One of America's first known serial killers, the Servant Girl Annihilator, as he was called in the parlance of the time, killed 7 women and 1 man in Austin, Texas, between December 1884 and December 1885. All the victims were domestic staff, either killed while sleeping or dragged out of their beds and killed outside their homes. In just one night, December 24, 1885, the killer murdered 3 victims with an axe, a signature that earned him his more politically correct nickname, the Austin Axe Murderer. Number 4. The Long Island Killer. The aptly named Long Island Killer is an unknown murderer who's been killed in New York from 1996 to possibly the present. Somewhere between 10 and 17 murders can be attributed to the Long Island Killer, and since he may or may not still be operating, he's one of the most recent serial killers in America to remain at large. Authorities know very little about the suspect, speculating that he is likely a white male in his mid-20s to 40s with extensive knowledge of law enforcement operations and techniques, which would explain how he successfully avoided capture. Number 3. The Black Doodler. The Doodler could have had a more flattering nickname like the Artist or the Sketcher had he been kinder to the male models who posed for him. But instead, he sexually assaulted and stabbed them, ultimately killing somewhere between 6 and 14 victims in San Francisco. From January 1974 to September 1975, several men disappeared from the city's gay community, and several more were injured or the victims of attempted murder. Number 2. The Zodiac Killer. Thanks largely to the 2007 Jake Gyllenhaal and Robert Downey Jr. blockbuster Zodiac, the Zodiac Killer is perhaps the most infamous unsolved serial killer case in the United States. Much like Jack the Ripper did in London nearly a century prior, the Zodiac taunted police by sending investigators and the San Francisco Bay Area press cryptic messages and clues over 1 year in the late 1960s. Number 1. Jack the Ripper. It's hard to say why London's Jack the Ripper is arguably the world's most famous serial killer. It could be because he committed his crimes so long ago, in 1888, they're so far removed from current times that no one connected to the case is still alive. It also could be because of the brutality of his killings that earned him his hair-raising nickname, or because he was never caught, despite operating in a society that prided itself on law and social order. If you really enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can come back with interesting videos. Thanks for watching.